As we all know that the Pallava period was a veritable age of art which flourished in different disciplines, and this is also true for say music, dance as well as the painting. Now, whenever there is a development in a particular discipline, it also has a repercussion on a corresponding development in another discipline. This can be very well demonstrated by the example of the Sittanna Vasal temple fresco, where a fine depiction of danseuses has been depicted in painting, and this shows not only the development in painting, but as well as the development in dance as well. Now, to start with, in music we have distinct development in the Pallava period. Particularly important was the Tevaram, the spontaneous outpouring of the heart, which has been demonstrated in Tevaram, which was written, composed by the famous trio Appar, Sundarar and Sambandhar. Particularly Sundarar, he was a noted vocalist himself, and he was accompanied by Tirunilakantha Panar, who was a expert on yal, that is something like a lute or veena. Together they composed or they sang along with the accompaniment of the instrument in different temples, and these Tevarams very early were sung in different temples. We have references from the late Pallava period that Tirupadiham was sung in different temples, and from Tiruvallam temple inscription we find that from Nandivarman III's time onwards, the singers of Tirupadiham was given land grants, and this system continued in the later Chola period as well. Even now, every Shiva temple has or they have the system of Tevaram being sung, though the original tunes in which the meters or the verses were composed may have been forgotten, but the system of Tevaram being sung is still continued in all Shiva temples in South India. In the case of the Vaishnava temples, Divya Prabandham, particularly in the case of Periya Tirumoli, it could have been sung, but it seems that in case of Divya Prabandham, that is the Vaishnava tradition or the Vaishnava verses, it was or they were possibly recited in Udatta, Anudatta and Swarita Swaram. Now, in the context of the king's contribution, we find different virudas, that is cognomen or epithet, which was attached in front of the name of the king. There are certain references which can be inferred as their contribution or their participation in the musical field. Particularly important is the cognomen of Mahendravarman, which is known as Sankirna Jati. Now, Gopinath Rao, who was the epigraphist, he was of opinion that Sankirna Jati normally means born from a mixed caste. Whereas Krishna Shastri, another epigraphist, he was of the opinion that Shankirna Jati would mean a different type of musical time, that is tala, which was invented by Mahendravarman. Now, in a official inscription, it is very difficult to think that one would speak very eloquently about one's questionable birth or the descent, that is born of a mixed caste, and that is why C. Meenakshi is of the opinion that possibly Krishna Shastri was correct, that is Mahendravarman was the inventor of a different type of musical time, that is Sankirna Jati. Now, according to Tala Lakshana, which is the earliest treatise on the Tala, that is musical time, by Nandishwara, there are only 4 types of musical time has been noted, that is Chaturashra, Tisra, Misra and Khanda, whereas there are generally accepted 5 types of musical notes or musical time, of which Sankirna Jati is the latest one and which is not generally being used. On the basis of this information, Meenakshi hypothesizes that possibly Mahendravarman was the inventor of this latest tala, and that is why this Sankirna Jati was attached as his cognomen. Apart from this Sankirna Jati Viruda, Rajashimha, his grandson, he also assumes different types of cognomen which gives a glimpse of their attachment to music. For instance, Rajashimha has the cognomen like Badya Vidyadhara and also Sri Atodya Tumburu. Now, in Amarakosh, Tumburu is proficient in playing veena. Atodya generally means proficiency in 4 types of musical instruments, of which veena is one, and there are others like Muraja, then that is drum, then Vamsha, flute, etc. Now, on the basis of Amarakosha's instance, that is Tumburu was proficient in playing veena, and here Rajashimha is being equated with Tumburu in his proficiency in playing veena. It is assumed, or C. Meenakshi assumes, that Rajashimha was proficient in playing veena. Apart from the Viduras, there is a very direct evidence of the advancement of music during the Pallava period, and here comes the Kudumiyamalai inscription. This is a very significant inscription in the sense that this is directly related with music. This is a musical inscription. The music was inscribed, or this inscription was inscribed at the very end. It is written as Rudracharya Shishyena Parama Maheshwara Shishya Hitartha Krita Swaragama, that is, the disciple of Rudracharya, the king Parameshwara himself, is inscribing this note on Swaragama for the benefit of the disciples or students. Now, this Kudumiyamalai inscription is divided in 7 sections like Madhyama Grame Chatushprahara Swaragama. like this, there are 7 types of 7 sections, each comprising of permutations of 4 swaras in 16 subsections. Now, this inscription shows that whoever has done this inscription, and Meenakshi assumes that this was inscribed by Mahendravarman himself, who had invented this musical notations for the benefit of the students. And here he also comes to the conclusion that Mahendravarman invented these permutations of sounds by experimenting on an instrument that is 7-stringed veena, which is known as parivadini. In Amarakosha, parivadini means an instrument, a veena, having 7 strings, and if we go according to Buddha Charit of Ashwaghosh, it is said that parivadini is not only 7-stringed, but the strings are made of gold. So, he had experimented this music on the on this type of instrument, and the result we find in Kudumiyamalai inscription. Regarding the authorship, one can argue that this was directly not done by Mahendravarman, but paleographically it is in the 7th century, late 7th century, the time period when Mahendravarman was ruling. The region from where it was found, it was well under the control of Mahendravarman himself, and if we take another inscription which is badly mutilated, Mamandur inscription, there another musical inscription, though unfortunately most of the information has been lost because it has been transposed on by another inscription. There the inscriber's cognomen is Gunabhara, which was the cognomen or epithet of Mahendravarman. With these informations, we can very well say that Pallava period saw veritable improvement in music. Now, this development in music had direct relation with another sister discipline, that is dance. Two types of dance can be found or seen in the Tamil country. One is the traditional Kuttu dance or Kuttu form of dance, which was the local one, which was the indigenous dance form, and from the Sangam period, from the classical literature itself, we find different types of Kuttus were prevalent in different parts of the Tamil country. In Silapadigaram, another very important text of the classical period, we find that different distinctions have been made in among the Kuttus. We find two main types of Kuttus. One is Shanti Kuttu and another is Vinoda Kuttu, which is then subdivided into many different types. These are basically group dances and pastoral type of dance prevalent among the pastoral people mainly, and this was accompanied by music played in yal, or as I already said that it is a kind of veena or lute, and there were different types of lutes being available in different parts of Tamil country, along with drum and kulal. Now, what happened to Kuttu, it is not very well demonstrated in different historical informations during the Pallava period. But another type of dance, which is generally known as the classical dance based on the Bharatanatyam Shastra, this can be very well demonstrated, or the developments in the classical dance can be very well demonstrated from the temple architecture or the temple sculptures in the temple architecture. Now, according to Bharatanatyam Shastra, there are 4 different types of abhinaya. A very important aspect of this abhinaya is the angika abhinaya, that is, through the movement of the body parts, different types of emotions and meanings are being represented to the audience. This was basically done for the benefit of the kings as well as his court, which was mainly played in the stage, but later we find the same thing being transposed, being taken inside the temple precincts. In the Pallava period, they were believers of the divine origin of the dance, and the attachment that they show to Nataraja, the Shiva, in the Nataraja form or the Natesha form. This shows that they believed in the divine inspiration or the divine origin of dance. As at the very beginning, I started with fresco, temple fresco at Sittannavasal, that is Jain monastery. There it is a bust of 2 dancers or danseuses, and because it is just a bust, there the hand postures can only be demonstrated, and according to Bharatanatyam Shastra, hastabhinaya, that is expression of different meanings through exposition of the hand poses, that becomes very important. And in this particular fresco, Sittannavasal fresco, we find that one hand, the right hand, is in Gajahasta mode, whereas the another, the left hand, is in Chatura posture. There are other forms. If we look at the leg postures, according to the Natya Shastra, which is known as Nikuttitam, one, that is right leg, is firmly implanted on the ground, as the left leg, the toe is implanted on the ground, whereas the heel is a lift, which will be later struck on the ground forcefully. This altogether shows that the dance discipline, or the discipline of dance in fine arts, it was also advancing fast apace along with the development that was taking place in the field of music. Now, if we come to the painting during the Pallava period, we find that there are several examples of paintings, though they are very fragmentary because of the wear and tear. Here, if we take the examples of Mahabalipuram, not all, but particularly the Adi Varaha cave in Mahabalipuram, it shows traces of paints which was possibly done during the Pallava period, particularly the Durga image. It has paints on it, and the ceiling in front of Durga image, it also shows traces of floral designs which has been drawn or painted on the ceiling. Mamandur cave also shows that it was heavily painted with vertical lines of deep red and deep green alternating, and in between there were colorless stone panels in between. So, it formed a kind of design or pattern, and fragments of these paintings or paints can be seen even now. Here particularly important is the Sittannavasal Jain temple, and as we all know that Mahendravarman was for a time being a Jain disciple who was later converted by the intervention of Nayanar. Here in the case, here it is Appar. In Sittannavasal, particularly in the sanctum, on the ceiling we have already referred that there are two busts of dancers there, and not only the hand postures, but the coiffure, the way the hair do has been done, or the ornaments that has been depicted with rare craftsmanship. Also on the right hand of this sanctum, portraits of a man and woman has been depicted, which Meenakshi finds or thinks that was the portrait of Mahendravarman and his queen. But more important was the depiction of a lotus lake, what we find in the on the ceiling, and there not only the lotus and the waters, but different water animals as well as 3 Jain ascetics have been depicted, of which 2 are holding a lotus in their hands and another picking the lotus and keeping in a flower basket on which is situated on his left side, left shoulder. This picture or the other examples that I have already enumerated, it shows that possibly they were using vegetable colors. Not very many variations were there, they were using very basic colors like red, yellow, green or black, but the color scheme that they were using, it was very interesting one, it was very vibrant in its nature, and whatever remains are there, it shows that Pallava period saw a very advanced type of painting, which if not cannot be compared with the Ajanta paintings, but it had its own weight itself. And again the Virudas of the kings, particularly Mahendravarman, shows his attachment to painting. He has a title which is known as Chitrakarapulli. Now, Chitrakarapulli means tiger among the painters. So, possibly he was also very proficient in painting, and also another cognomen was there among his titles, that is Dakshina Chitra. Possibly he was an author of a treatise, a text which demonstrated the distinctiveness of the South Indian painting, and that is why the name Dakshina Chitra. With all these things, we can find that in the Pallava period, not only architecture, but other disciplines of fine arts, particularly music, dance and painting also saw advancement, and this even now can make oneself wonder that how they were doing all these things at a very short time of say 200 to 300 years.